Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. I'm back to break down this 11-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. If you tuned in yesterday, I feel like you would have done pretty good on Free Friday, the tools and the spots that I was on. The blatantly obvious spot was the Dodgers, and they went out there and crushed it. And then, looking at my cheat sheet and some of the plays that I had suggested, guys like Gavin Lux and Orlando Arcia, both having a very big day. So hopefully you took advantage of that. And we're going to move on to today's slate. Before we get into it, I had mentioned my MLB packages. I have released multiple MLB packages over there on Patreon, where you can get access to things like my starting pitcher data sheet that you see behind me during the videos, my hot hitter StatCast data tool, my team hitting data tool, my bullpen data tool, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. I think it's going to provide you some value. I think it's going to help you every day with your daily fantasy sports lineups, and I think it's going to make you a better MLB DFS player. So go ahead and check that out. Link in the description if interested. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK DFS. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So as always, I like to figure out the pitchers we're going to want to get in our lineups, and I like to do that by sorting my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today is that Corbin Burns taking on these Kansas City Royals. Burns comes in with a 30.5% K rate. He's got a 15.6 swing strike rate. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff's very good. His K rate against righties is very good at a 35.2% clip. And then against lefties, it dips down to a 24.9, but still solid across the board. So Corbin Burns taking on this Royals team. When looking at his salary on DraftKings today, he comes in at an $8K price tag, and he is a $247 favorite. So a heavy favorite. He's got the strikeout stuff, and he's got a pretty good matchup in these Kansas City Royals. Not exactly the most threatening lineup in the world. So Corbin Burns, top guy in the slate, and he's only 8K on DraftKings as far as strikeout rate. Top guy in the slate and strikeout rate. So bang for your buck in Corbin Burns today. I like him as a play. Second on the list is a young prospect who has been killing it since he came up. We're only dealing with a 22 innings pitch sample size, but the kid's been on fire. Ian Anderson, he's got a 30.3% K rate, a 12.2 swinging strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's been very impressive. He has a 23.1% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 36% K rate against lefties. So he's really been excelling against left-handed hitters, and he gets to face these New York Mets today. And he comes in as a 150 favorite, and these Mets have a ton of lefties. So we are only dealing with a 22 innings pitch sample size I had mentioned, but he's top prospect, and he's looked real good out of the gates. And the data we're dealing with so far, he's been really good in the strikeout category against lefties. So I think that everything matches up here. He's got the left-handed heavy New York Mets lineup he's taking on. The weather, he's got 61-degree weather with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left, which is great for pitching. And I think that he's a great option today. So second guy on the slate to talk about, Ian Anderson, 8.9K on DraftKings today. Third guy is the top option on the slate, even though he's not coming in above these guys. Trevor Bauer, absolute stud, taking on the Chicago White Sox. He has a 30.1% K rate, a 12.7 swinging strike rate, a 32.1% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 28% K rate against the lefties. So, it's Trevor Bauer. He's got a ton of name value around the league. I think he's a well-known name. If you're playing MLB DFS, I'm guessing you know who Trevor Bauer is. And he comes in as a 141 favorite. So, if I'm picking one thing, these Chicago White Sox do have a ton of power in their lineup, I will say, but they have a ton of strikeouts as well. And when you're dealing with an elite pitcher like Trevor Bauer, who can be somewhat matchup proof, he goes out there and gets the job done regardless of who he's taking on. I think that we can go ahead and not really worry about the power and more so focus on the strikeout upside for Trevor Bauer because it's there today. And at 10.8K, I do think that Trevor Bauer is the top pitching option on the slate. But we do have other good options. We've already gone over those guys at the top. Next on the list is going to be that Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton has been really struggling this year, so I don't really know if I really want to promote him in this spot. But when you're looking at his numbers, over the course of the last 2 years, and I do value sample size when it comes to starting pitching. We need to be able to see them doing it over a time span. Any starting pitcher can go out there and be dominant for a few starts. It needs to be consistent. So, Charlie Morton is a guy that has been consistent. He has a 29.1% K rate, a 24.2% K rate against righties, and then a 34.4% K rate against lefties. So, I understand he's been struggling. That might lower his ownership, and he does get to take on the Baltimore Orioles, which isn't exactly the best lineup in the world. So Charlie Morton, the guy to put a little bit of a star next to his name, a little bit of an asterisk because, he has just been real bad, but he's shown his talent in the past, and when he gets a matchup like this at 7.4K, if we're seeing that he's not limited on his pitch count, and the Rays are going to roll him out there for a while, I do think that he's a good play that you could get low owned. However, the Rays are very comfortable with pulling the string on their pitchers early in the game and just going to the bullpen. That's their MO. They pride themselves on being a team that they can just go into the bullpen and throw guys for a couple innings, and then go to the next guy and just dominate by that. So a little bit of a disclaimer there on Charlie Morton, but I do have to mention him as an option. Next guy on the slate is Mike Clevenger taking on these Seattle Mariners. Clevy's got a bunch of strikeout upside anytime he takes the mound. He's got a 28.2% K rate, a 32.4% K rate against righties. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff's all pretty impressive. And then a 24.3% K rate against lefties. So we do prefer to target him in right-handed heavy matchups if at all possible. And the Seattle Mariners team that he's taking on today is, they're pretty much a blend between righty-lefty, but their bats are just not intimidating. And I do think that Clevenger has a ton of strikeout upside here. He does come in at a 10.2K price tag, so you're going to pay for him, but he's a 186 favorite, and I do think that he's a valid play. You're just paying up, and you have to choose if you want to play him or Trevor Bauer, which I do think I would tend to side with Bauer. However, Clevenger's 10-2 and Bauer's 10-8. So if I'm looking at these two pitchers and there's a bat that I really want to get in that I need that extra 600 for in my lineups, I don't hate dropping down at all to Clevy because he's in a good matchup as well. So definitely got to have interest in. There's a ton of pitching on this slate. It's kind of stacked, so I'm going to try to get through these and then get over to some bats that we're going to want to target. But to be honest with you, there's a lot to like. And the next guy, when we're talking matchup and capitalizing on matchup, we have to mention Andrew Heaney taking on these Texas Rangers because the Rangers really struggle against left-handed pitchers. Andrew Heaney has a 25.7% K rate, a 12.7 swinging strike rate. He's got a 25.2% K rate against righties and then a 27.4% K rate against lefties. And he's a guy that's really good in the strikeout category for the most part. He just struggles in the hard contact category to right-handed hitting. That's where he gets himself in trouble. But I had mentioned, these Texas Rangers really do struggle against left-handed pitching. And I'll give you guys a little sneak peek of my team hitting data sheet that I offer over there on Patreon. And I had pulled this up before the video. When you're looking at these Rangers overall as a team, they have a 25.3% K rate, not good. The ISO, the slugging, all that stuff's very bad. It's red on my sheet comparing them to the rest of the league. Against right-handed pitching, I know this doesn't apply because Andrew Heaney's a lefties, but just a glance, they're not good. And then against lefties, it gets real bad. They have a 25.7% K rate. The WOA is bad. The ISO's bad. The slugging's bad. The fly ball rate's bad. They just don't really threaten at all when it comes to facing off against left-handed pitching. And so, I think I gave you, a lot of reasoning as to why you can have interest in Andrew Heaney today. And I really do like him at his price tag in the matchup at 8.3K. He's not the most expensive. And it's just the matchup. And then he comes in as a 166 favorite. So, Andrew Heaney, definitely a guy to have interest in. And then as far as on the cheap end, I do have to give you guys, a salary relief option because I understand you might want to go cheap at pitching in order to get in some bats. And when we're looking at the cheap end today, so we have a couple guys, and they each are appealing in their own way. The first guy I'm going to mention is Mitch Keller because of his strikeout rate. So Mitch Keller, when we're looking at K rate on the slate, Mitch Keller's up here at number 6 on the board. He has a 26.5% K rate, a 30.3% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 22% K rate against lefties. So he really excels at striking out right-handed hitting, but you can see the hard contact and the slugging is really bad. So he's an all-or-nothing pitcher. He gets a lot of strikeouts, but he also gives up a lot of hard contact, and he gets himself in trouble. So keep that in mind when you're playing him, but he's cheap. So he's only 5.7K. So these are the things that we have to decide on. He has the strikeout upside. He has the talent. He just gets himself in trouble in the hard contact category. but he is only 5.7K, so I have to mention him. He's a salary relief option today. He has the upside. It might go south for you, but he's cheap and it might pay off. So he's number one. Number two is Chris Bubic taking on these Milwaukee Brewers, and it's scary. I'm not really feeling all that great promoting Bubic, and as a matter of fact, I'm sure you could probably play some of these bats today because we'll get into bats second, but he does have a 20.8% K rate. He's really struggled against righties. He has a 22% K rate, and then against lefties, he has a 14.3% K rate. He's actually been worse against lefties. So he is not a good pitcher at all. I'm not saying that Bubic's a good pitcher, and honestly, it's kind of scary, but I have to give you guys salary relief options. And he gets to take on this Milwaukee Brewers team who has struck out a ton. They are second worst in the league in strikeout rate outside of the Detroit Tigers. So anytime I can target a pitcher against these Milwaukee Brewers, I do think that they have upside. But it's scary. Don't play him a lot, but throw him in a couple lineups. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, I do think Bubic's a valid option to throw in a couple lineups. That's all I'm saying. Don't want you guys to get too excited about the play, and I want to make sure that's clear, but it could pay off. So he's my other salary relief option. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats that we're going to want to target. Enough of the pitching. Let's figure out some bats that we like today. And when looking at the bats, I always like to sort my sheet by Sierra, scale interactive ERA. It's a great way to know how good a pitcher has been in the past and how good they're projected to be in the future. And the top option on the slate is that in the Los Angeles Dodgers. Once again, if you tuned into my video yesterday, I was very high on the Dodgers. They just had a ridiculously good matchup, and it's just as good today, pretty much. I mean, not as good as yesterday when we're looking at my data sheet, but Chichi Gonzalez is not good. He has a 17.3% K rate. It's 8.6 swinging strike rate. The walk rate is very bad. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff is respectable. But then against righties, he gives up a 401 slugging, not good. And against lefties, it's a 512 slugging. Very, very bad. Chichi Gonzalez, love targeting. He doesn't strike anyone out, is the thing. 18.4% K rate against lefties and a 16% K rate against, an 18.4% K rate against righties and then a 16% K rate against lefties. And then a 17.3 K rate overall. He just doesn't strike anyone out, and that's scary when you're taking on a Los Angeles Dodgers team that's as dangerous as the Dodgers are. It's just scary good. They got 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right center. It's looking like 82 degrees in Coors Field. They have a 7.76 implied run total, and they're taking on Chichi Gonzalez and this Colorado Rockies bullpen. Looking at my bullpen data sheet, they aren't the greatest either. So, yeah. Dodgers, have to love them today. The guys at the bottom of the order, Austin Barnes and Edwin Rios, if they're at the bottom of the order, I don't care because they're 3.3K. That's way too cheap. So they're great salary relief options. I'm sure you'll find them. My patrons, I'm sure you're going to be seeing them on my cheat sheet for salary relief because that's just too cheap in the spot that they're in. Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Justin Turner, Max Muncy. Love all these guys. I mean, if I'm picking my favorite options, it would be Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, and Max Muncy. Those are my top four. Justin Turner and Chris Taylor are great, but they do excel more against left-handed pitching, so that's my reason for leaving them off. But, I mean, Edwin Rios and Gavin Lux are two young kids with a ton of power and a ton of talent, and their price tags aren't the highest. And then Austin Barnes falls in that category, too. He's got a ton of talent. So, yeah, Dodgers cannot get enough of them. I try to narrow down my plays. I try not to just give you guys broad analysis and say play everyone in the lineup. But when it comes to a spot like this, that just can't miss. We do play daily fantasy sports. We have to fill every single position in our lineups, and we have to fall under the salary cap. So, I mean, I really think you could, whatever other team you're stacking with, if you can fit this Dodger stack in, whatever guys you can fit positionally-wise, just throw in your lineup and feel great about it. I would prioritize Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, and Cody Bellinger. And Edwin Rios and Gavin Lux. Love the lefties in this game. And then Mookie Betts is just Mookie Betts, so you have to throw him in. Dodgers in a ridiculously good spot. These Atlanta Braves get to take on David Peterson, who's not good, for these New York Mets. He has a 16.8% K rate, a 9% swinging strike rate. The walk rate's very bad, and then when you're looking at the slugging give up to righties, he's a 378, which isn't terrible, but it's not good. and then against lefties, he's much better. So it's really, once again, we're dealing with a guy that doesn't strike anyone out, and when he's taking on a team that's as talented as the Atlanta Braves and the ability to slug against left-handed pitching, such as the Atlanta Braves, you're going to want to have interest in these guys. The only thing is the hitting weather is not ideal. 61 degrees with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in. That kind of stinks, but Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, every single righty in this lineup that crushes lefties. You know, my top options would be Austin Riley, Duvall, Swanson, d'Arnaud, Ozuna, and Acuna. And then Flowers and Albies. Albies actually is a top option as well. The only thing that stinks about Albies is that he hits in the 9 spot, but he crushes left-handed pitching. So he fills in a second base spot, and he has a ton of talent. And then he has some speed. When he gets on the bases, he can steal some bases for you. So don't want to leave off Ozzy Albies. It just stinks that he hits in the 9 spot. But then again, that might lower his ownership. So definitely a good play today. Moving further along, you know, you got Kwang Hyun Kim taking on these Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm not playing the Pirates. The Pirates suck. If you're looking at my team hitting data sheet, the Pirates stick out as a team. I just don't want to play unless they're in a real good matchup. And while Kim's not the greatest, I don't want to play him today. So we're going to bypass that. Chris Mazza taking on the New York Yankees. You can see he is below average across the board. Not good in the K rate. Gives up a 425 slugging to righties, not the greatest. And then against lefties, a 485. He really struggles against left-handed hitting. And he's not the greatest against righties. But these Yankees are hot. They're a team you're going to want to have interest in every single night because they're hot. We just have to figure out if they're worth paying their price tags for. Because, you know, a lot of these guys in this lineup are priced up quite a bit. Like DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Luke Voigt. They're all priced up, so it's not a matter of if they're good plays. It's a matter of if they're good plays for their price tag, and they are priced up. And Mazza is, you know, better against right-handed hitting. However, with that being said, I think it's going to be more of a bullpen game, and this Boston bullpen has been terrible all year. They're a bullpen that we can target, so I don't think Mazza is going to be the guy on the mound all game, or for the majority of the game either. I think he's just going to go out there for a couple innings, and yeah, that's the appeal of the Yankee stack. They're going to get to take on the Boston Red Sox bullpen. So just throw in the guys with power, throw in the guys in the middle of the order, and throw in the guys that fit in your positional spots with your other stacks. So, I mean, my top options are DJ LeMahieu and Luke Voigt. Those two guys are absolutely hot. They're both MVP candidates, and you want to target them every night out. They just look dialed in at the plate. Aaron Judge is a guy I want to target. He just got off the injured list, and he's looking a little rusty, so take that with what you will. I mean, maybe that'll lower his ownership, and that'll make me like him more, but he's just got to get back in the swing of things. So, little disclaimer there, but then you can target the bottom of the order as well. So, yeah, it's a bullpen game. The Red Sox bullpen isn't good, and that's the appeal there. I mean, we're not really breaking down the starter as much as other spots because it's probably going to be mostly relief arms, and their bullpen isn't good. So, spot to have interest in there. Jorge Lopez taking on these Tampa Bay Rays. You can see he's below average across the board when you're looking at his splits. Very respectable in the ground ball and the fly ball rate against right-handed hitting. He has a 403 slugging, but then against lefties, he's very, very bad. And that's not going to align well taking on this Tampa Bay Rays team because they are practically all lefties. So he has a 534 slugging against left-handed hitting, not good. The hard contact's not good. The WOBA's bad. And I think the Rays are in a tremendous spot today taking on Jorge Lopez. When looking at their Vegas line, they have a 4.86 implied total. Yeah, when you're looking at their lineup, they literally have three right-handed hitters in there. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if those guys don't crack the lineup and we get some more lefties. So, yeah, I mean, I just interested in every single lefty in the lineup. That's broad analysis once again. Sorry, guys, but it's true. Nate Lowe in the middle of the order has a ton of power. I like him. Joey Wendell, I like him. Kevin Kiermaier is not the most elite bat, but when we're looking at the splits, he has only 2.7K, and he does have the speed when he gets on. So, I think he's interesting today. And then Michael Perez has some pop for a catcher, and he's swinging from the left-handed side of the plate. And then Brandon Lowe at the top of the order, or the second spot, would be my top option. I mean, he's the number one guy to get in this lineup, 100%. Brandon Lowe's got a bunch of pops. So, and then the top of the order, of course, in Yoshi at the leadoff spot. Gotta like him. So, yeah, I like every single lefty in this lineup. I think I gave you reasons as to why. I mean, looking at Jorge Lopez's numbers, he has a 534 slugging against lefties, not good. And I really like these lefties today. So, get these those Rays stacks in your lineups. The next two guys, that we're looking to target. Both left-handed pitchers taking on some lineups that can crush lefties. So first we have Justice Sheffield taking on these Padres, and when you're looking at Sheffield's numbers, he's very good in the ground ball and the fly ball, but he does give up a 430 slugging, a 36.9% hard hit rate, and a 348 WOBA to right-handed hitting. And he's much better against lefties. So we're looking to target these San Diego Padres righties that crush left-handed pitching, and they definitely provide us with some. Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado was the top of my list last night. Similar spot, taking on bad pitching, but Manny Machado, especially against left-handed hitting. After hitting 2 bombs last night, I think he can pick right up where he left off and keep it rolling. So he's top of the list today as far as me as third baseman. Austin Nola, Will Myers, Tommy Pham. If Tommy Pham's back, that's a great thing for us because that's going to add to the stack. Love those guys, those righties. A couple more spots for you guys, and then we'll wrap up this slate. We went over the Rays. We went over the Yankees. We've gone over, I had mentioned, so we have 2 more spots to go over. So the first one I had mentioned, we're targeting these left-handed pitchers, and, the next on the list is that in Chris Bubic. I had mentioned maybe playing him against these Milwaukee Brewers, but you can definitely play the right-handed bats against him because the hard contact's bad, the slugging's bad, and he's just gives up a lot of hard contact. If he's not striking someone out, it's being hit hard. So, these right-handed hitters that crush lefties, I'm definitely going to like today. And Avisail Garcia, Keston Hiura, Jed Jerko, Tyrone Taylor. It's looking like Ryan Braun might not be in the lineup, which is a little unfortunate. We'd want to play him. But Orlando Arcia is the guy I promoted last night, and he's in a similar spot. They were taking on Danny Duffy, the lefty. Now they get to take on another lefty that gives up hard contact. So, I like him. Can definitely have interest in these Brewers. And then the last spot to talk about is the Houston Astros taking on Luke Weaver, who's not good when you're looking at his numbers across the board. A lot of orange going on. He gives a 422 slugging to righties, not good. And then against lefties, he gives a 458 slugging. So, once again, a guy that gives up hard contact, a guy that doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. And we could definitely have interest in these Astros bats today. George Springer, Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker. I would prefer to stack up that 1 through 5 range if at all possible, but then you also have Yulieski Gurriel, Carlos Correa at the bottom, who have a ton of talent, and then Reddick's a cheap option, and Martin Maldonado fills in that catcher spot for you. So, that is pretty much my overall breakdown of today's slate. Quick little overview, as I always like to do with you guys, of what I've gone over. Mitch Keller is a cheap pitching option that could pay off in a big way for you. He is risky, but he's cheap and he has the strikeout upside. Ian Anderson I like a lot, taking on these New York Mets. He excels against left-handed hitting in the strikeout category, and there's a lot of lefties in this Mets lineup. You can have interest in these Atlanta Braves righties. Acuna, Ozuna, d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall. They all crush lefties. Austin Riley. Trevor Bauer is probably the top option on the slate for pitching. Comes in as a 141 favorite. He's got the strikeout stuff. He's got the ground ball stuff. He's got it all. Corbin Burns has a big strikeout rate, and he's only 8K on DraftKings. Like him today. 247 favorite from Vegas. These Houston Astros you can have interest in taking on Luke Weaver. Stack them up. The New York Yankees. Chris Mazza does struggle more against left-handed hitting, and the Yankees have a lot of righties. However, it's probably going to be mostly a bullpen game, so take advantage of the Red Sox bullpen because that has been real bad this year. So like the Yankees. Charlie Morton taking on the Baltimore Orioles. I think he is a sneaky play because he's been really, really bad this year, but we've seen the talent in the past. He's a 180 favorite. Maybe he won't get the ownership that he should. And then I like these Tampa Bay Rays lefties a lot, taking on Jorge Lopez, and I mentioned his splits. Brandon Lowe is a big-time option today. Nate Lowe, cheap end, and he's got a bunch of power, so like those guys. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the top stack of the slate, hands down. The ridiculously good spot, taking on Chichi Gonzalez. Have to like them today. You can like every single person in the lineup, really. I prefer the lefties. All those lefties, get them in your lineup. And then Austin Barnes is the catcher. He's a great play. Mike Clevenger taking on the Seattle Mariners is a great pitching option. I like him today, and I like these San Diego Padres righties that crush left-handed pitching. Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Austin Nola, Will Myers, Tommy Pham. And lastly, Andrew Heaney is a great pitching option taking on these Texas Rangers. I mentioned their struggles against left-handed pitching, and I really do like Andrew Heaney today. So that is my overall breakdown of today's slate. Before I wrap things up, I do have to give you guys my home run call of the day. And when breaking down my home run call of the day, I think we're going to have to go with a Tampa Bay Rays bat. We had mentioned Jorge Lopez, his struggles against left-handed hitting. When we're looking at the splits, he gives up a 534 slugging, a 42.2% hard hit rate, 375 WOBA, not good. He's going to really struggle against this lineup today. I think the Rays are in a tremendous spot. And my home run call of the day, without a doubt today, is going to be that in Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays. Brandon Lowe, or Lau, I guess some people pronounce it. I believe that's the proper pronouncing, so sorry if I said that wrong. But Brandon Lowe, he's my home run call of the day. Get him in your lineups. He's going deep. I love all these lefties on this Tampa Bay Rays team, so stack them up and feel good about that today. So that is all from me. If you're enjoying the content and you're going to be tuning in for future videos, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos that I make. I appreciate you guys tuning in today, and I wish you all the best of luck tonight. Have a good one.